week, and really pleased. We mounted a pretty strong lead. We knew that Nevada was an explosive offense, and they came charging back. Couldn't say enough about some of the adversity we had with injured players and young guys stepping up and making plays, and certainly great for us to get a win. So at this time, questions.
Craig, it seemed like, for a while there, it was about as balanced and good effort you had. You had to hold on there at the end, but talk about your offense. Cam was lock on. Brian ran on, even Kellen. But were you really pleased with the offensive execution and balance, especially for the first 2.5 quarters?
Well, I really even up until the end. I thought it was Cam's best game. He made plays. Tanner certainly did. He got nicked up. He's got a separated shoulder, so I don't know if he'll be back next week. But Tanner made some great plays. Our offensive line did a super job protecting, and we got the running game going. And that balance always proves to be a difficult thing for a defense to defend, and that certainly was helpful today. And then what I thought was so great was to see a young player like Kellen Overstreet go out there and compete and make plays, and then also come up and, our stay-up on the long hauls, we're able to take the ball on the 5-yard line and just pound it in. And so it was a great performance by our offense.
About your defense too, Craig. I know you were down a couple guys already to start. Appleby goes down early in the game. You got a young secondary, and I know they gave up some plays yards late, but I thought that was also a pretty good effort, especially who you had out there.
Right. What was really gratifying was to see a lot of guys who run proven players go out there, and it wasn't like they were afraid of the competition, and particularly come up with a big play on 4th down and 5. That's been a long time coming, and so couldn't be happier for our players.
Coach, at the end of the half, the defense makes a stop, offense scores a touchdown. Take me through that and going into the half with a lead, getting the football back.
Right.
I'm sure the mood in the locker room was pretty good, but how pleased were you for your defense and offense to execute in the
Well, I thought that first half we probably played as good a football as what we've had maybe since I've been our head coach. And but we've seen signs of that coming. Our offense has been really good on 2-minute, and I thought Cam and listen to Coach Vegan. We were in and out of plays. Certainly to go in at halftime with that kind of lead, right away all the coaches on the headsets were concerned, saying, okay, we got to make sure we've got poise and composure. But our guys recognized that. We said, hey, the score's 0-0. We're going to have to come out and keep on playing in the second half, which they did, right down to the very end.
Coach, you had a lot of meaningful and great wins at NDSU, but given the circumstances, where does this stack up and compare?
Well, every year is different and every time is special, but I can tell you that was probably as gratifying for me, not so much as a head coach. We saw things improving, but just have our players experience some success. They've worked so hard, and just because you work hard doesn't mean that you get a win. And so it was great to see those guys jump up and down and finally go over to our students and sing Ragtime Cowboy.
Craig, C.J. Jennings was another guy who been in and out of the depth chart, but had to start today with more injuries. And I don't have the numbers, but I saw him eating a lot of plays, a lot of tackles, a lot of breakups. What did you think of him?
I thought he played excellent, and we were concerned, because he hadn't played a lot of football, but he was forced into play. But he had a really good week of practice, and it was good to see him go out there and compete. And he got challenged. Both he and Antonio Hall got challenged, and I thought those two guys really answered the bell. They're two young players that have a bright future.
Coach, how was that mood in the locker room after the game? I know this season it's been a tough road for everyone and a tough locker room. Just how was it today going in there knowing you guys picked up the win? It was awesome.
It was electric. I can tell you that. Our guys, they believed in our system. They kept believing and working hard, and that a win would eventually come. And for them to experience that, it was certainly loud. I had to have earplugs, I can tell you that.
Back to Cam and even Brian. We know last week the mistakes they had were tough, but they came back, and Cam, with I think 2 of his incompletions, but one was a drop and one was just barely out of bounds. How on top was he today?
I thought that really, he's a competitor, and coming into this game, he knew that how their defense was deployed, he was going to need to play well. Same thing with Brian, and I thought those two guys really bounced back. I think it's a note on their character. They're not going to get down too long. They're not going to get down on themselves. They're going to get right back in the fight and deliver.
Coach, were you surprised by Nevada's no-huddle offense right there at the end of the first half?
No, not really. Teams, that's kind of an in vogue thing. We didn't handle it particularly well on the touchdown. I know we weren't lined up, and that's discouraging. But I thought our guys got adjusted better as the game went along. But that caught us off guard, not so much in our preparation, but just the time we didn't execute particularly well with that.
Coach, what was the most challenging part of that whole losing streak? Week after week?
I think, when you have a young, impressionable football team, that they recognize that, you know what, good things are going to happen if you keep on working and if you keep on believing in what the coaches are teaching you and maintaining a positive attitude. And we told them, you're not a loser until you start, blaming somebody else, and start, every day go out and work on Monday. And so that's a real credit to their character, and we'll learn from that. And these are wins that, you always say, what kind of wins are hallmark wins? To say this is a hallmark win, I think it's an overstatement, but it certainly is a step in the right direction.
Craig saw Appleby left. Is that a knee, or do you have an update on him or any other injuries?
We believe Chase is torn ACL, but we'll confirm that, on Monday when we have an MRI. Like I said, I could downplay it and give you some gray answer, but I think it's a torn ACL. Tanner Gentry did not complete the game. He had a slight AC sprain. At times those guys are able to come back and play, other times they're not, so we'll see how he progresses. Certainly he's a prolific wide receiver, I know